All right, let's talk about something that's on pretty much everyone's mind: money. Specifically, we're going to dive into those invisible habits that might be secretly holding you back. We're going to explore 9 specific behaviors that can keep you broke, but more importantly, we'll look at the simple fixes you can make, starting right now, to build some real, lasting wealth. Let's get right into it.
So let me ask you something. Do you ever feel like you're working hard, maybe even getting raises, but when you look at your bank account, it just doesn't seem to be growing? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. It's a super common feeling, right? Like you're running on a financial treadmill and just not getting anywhere. But what if the problem isn't really how hard you work, but the small, everyday habits you don't even realize you have?
For this, our guide is going to be self-made millionaire Graham Stephan. Now, this is a guy who's a real estate investor and a YouTuber, and he's built a net worth of over $20 million. And his whole argument is that the gap between being broke and being wealthy, it's not some big, complicated secret. Nope. He says it's just a series of small, consistent habits that literally anyone can learn and adopt.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the millionaire mindset. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of fixing your daily spending, move on to building an actual wealth strategy, and then cover how to avoid some really common money traps. And at the end, we'll nail down the one single first step you can take.
First things first, let's talk about mindset. I mean, before we even touch a single expense or investment, it's so important to get the perspective shift that really separates wealthy people from everyone else. It's less about how much you earn and way more about how you think about the money you already have.
All right, now let's build the foundation, your daily spending. This is where most financial plans honestly just fall apart before they even get going. You gotta think of your finances like a bucket. It doesn't really matter how much water you pour in if it's full of tiny little leaks, right? So let's find them and plug them up.
The very first habit we gotta break is something called lifestyle inflation. You know how it goes. You get a raise, so you get a nicer car, then a bigger apartment. You start eating out more, and then suddenly, even though you're making more money, you're just as broke as you were before. Your lifestyle just puffs up to match your new paycheck, and you never actually get ahead.
So what's the fix? Well, Graham's philosophy is all about delayed gratification. For a whole decade, while his income was exploding, he lived like he was completely broke. He drove a used Toyota, he lived in this tiny little rental, he cooked all his own meals. He made some real sacrifices in his early 20s so that he could have total financial freedom later on.
Okay, the second habit that keeps people stuck is just not knowing where their money is going. Graham argues this one thing, this awareness, is one of the biggest dividers between the wealthy and, well, everyone else. It's those small, totally mindless purchases, that daily coffee, a subscription you forgot about, an impulse buy online, that are silently draining thousands of dollars from your account every single year.
So how do you fix it? He's got this simple but really powerful challenge. For the next 60 days, just write down every single thing you spend money on. You can use an app, a notebook, whatever works for you. And look, the goal here isn't to feel bad about your spending. It's just to get the data. After 2 months, you'll see exactly where your money is going, and the crazy part is, you'll just instinctively start to change your habits. Okay, so once you've got your spending under control, it's time to go on offense. This is where we shift from just saving money to actively creating wealth. It's all about making your money work for you instead of the other way around.
You know, a key habit of wealthy people is that they almost never rely on a single paycheck. This CNBC survey found that the vast majority of millionaires have at least 3 streams of income. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go quit your job tomorrow. The idea is to just start small. Use your free time to build a side hustle. In fact, Graham's own multi-million-dollar YouTube channel, it started as exactly that, just a little side project from home with nothing but a computer.
The next habit is a big one, not understanding taxes. I mean, for the average working American, taxes can eat up almost a third of their income. Think about that. That's a massive expense, and most people just kind of accept it as a fact of life. But wealthy people, they treat taxes as a strategic area that they can optimize.
The key here is to understand that there are totally legal ways to lower your tax bill. Things like maxing out your contributions to retirement accounts, like a 401k or an IRA, which lets your money grow without being taxed right away. It can also mean using things like a health savings account for medical costs, which are also tax deductible. And hey, if you have a side business, structuring it as an actual company can unlock even more deductions. This isn't about cheating the system. It's about playing by the rules that the government itself created to encourage you to save and invest.
So, we've talked offense, now let's talk defense. Because building wealth is fantastic, but it's just as important to protect it. A few common mistakes can completely wipe out years of hard work. So let's look at the biggest money traps you absolutely need to avoid.
The first trap is borrowing the absolute maximum amount you're offered. So when Graham went to buy his first property, the bank was more than happy to offer him a loan for $1.5 million. I mean, that's tempting, isn't it? They tell you you're approved and you immediately start dreaming bigger.
But this is where the discipline comes in. He only took a $600,000 loan, just 40% of what they offered him. Why? Because that was the number he felt comfortable with, the payment that wasn't going to give him sleepless nights. Just because a bank says you can afford something doesn't mean you should take it. Forget the maximum, borrow what you know you can easily, comfortably pay back.
All right, the next trap is confusing being frugal with just being cheap. And trust me, they are not the same thing. There's this idea called the Boots theory of economics that explains it perfectly. If you buy cheap $25 boots every year, you'll spend $250 over a decade. But if you just buy one quality $100 pair that lasts 10 years, you save yourself $150. Graham actually learned this the hard way when he hired a cheap accountant whose mistakes cost him way more than an expert would have. The lesson? Invest in quality where it really, really matters.
And the final trap is not planning for the worst. Look, a single unexpected event, losing your job, a medical emergency, a car wreck, it can wipe out years of financial progress. A proper safety net is simply not negotiable. That means an emergency fund with 3 to 6 months of your living expenses, plus the right insurance for your car, your home, and your health. This isn't about being negative, it's about being prepared, so one bad day doesn't turn into a bad decade.
Wow, we have covered a lot of ground, from mindset and strategy all the way to defense. But you know what? None of this information matters one bit if you don't actually do something with it. So let's bring it all together and figure out the single most important thing you can do right now.
So to recap, the path is actually pretty clear. It all starts with mastering your daily habits, like tracking your spending and avoiding that lifestyle inflation. Then you build a real strategy with multiple income streams and smart tax planning. And all along the way, you protect yourself by dodging those common traps, like borrowing too much and being unprepared for emergencies.
So I'm going to leave you with this one question. Don't try to change everything all at once. That's just a recipe for failure. Instead, just pick one. Of all the habits we've talked about today, which is the one habit you're going to commit to changing starting today? Your answer to that question really could be the very first step toward a totally different financial future. Thanks for tuning in.